Ford was elected, but my earliest memory is being mesmerized by Ronald Reagan. Her question in regards to the concern with, defunding it, and then we're facing another deep political battle right after that, brings up a real concern to me. It's no question that there's huge divides, ideological divides in Washington. It's obvious. Ideology's not a bad thing. First and foremost, we're Americans, and then we're Republicans or we're Democrats. My question for you is, and all of these points that you've talked about, I think we can all applaud them. The great Republican conservative values. How do you see yourself as a leader in Washington to build those bridges, build on common beliefs across the aisle to effectively get all of these things done that we'd like to do? We all applaud them, but when the rubber meets the road, that's a lion's den.
Yep, it is.
So how do you see yourself being a leader? It's a leadership drain, in my opinion.
Right.
So how do you see yourself as a leader in bringing about these changes?
A leader in Washington is one who's willing to step out of the comfort zone and become an educator on things that have long been forgotten and things that are sometimes unpopular. And that's what I intend to do. There are currently, as far as I can tell, exactly 2 open, vocal, steadfast defenders of the U.S. Constitution in the U.S. Senate. There are a number of others in the House, including Congressman Chaffetz, who I'm proud to call a friend and proud to call a congressman from my state because he stands up for it. But in the U.S. Senate, there are, as far as I can tell, only 2 open, steadfast, immovable defenders of the Constitution, Jim DeMint from South Carolina and Tom Coburn from Oklahoma. When I'm elected, I'll be a 3rd. But I'll be joined by a whole new cast of others who will be elected this year. Marco Rubio from Florida, I've met him, he shares my view. Marlin Stutzman from Indiana, I've met him, he shares my view. Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, also. Rand Paul from Kentucky, also. Chuck DeVore, California. I've met him, he shares my view. 8, it's a lot harder to ignore 8 than it is ignore 2. Once we get that critical mass, others who have been more quiet about it, but who I think share this view, John Kyle from Arizona, Mike Crapo from Idaho, they will start to come out of the woodwork. We'll be up to 10. And I think others will probably join at that point too. And in 2012, we'll add more. I think within the next 4 years, we'll be up to 20, 25, maybe 30 who are open, vocal proponents of the Constitution. You can't marginalize that many. And in fact, it's hard to pass any piece of legislation or a consistent stream of legislation. And when you have 20 or 30 consistently dissenting, because those dissenters can do a lot to create problems for those who disagree with them, especially if they're firmly committed to it. So it's about leadership, and it's about willingness to step out and say something that right now is a marginalized view, but pretty soon will no longer be one, because I'll make darn sure of it. And I'll do it by sharing with them my experience with the Constitution. I have a lifetime studying it. Studying not only the text itself, but the founding era documents, including Madison's notes on the Constitutional Convention, the Federalist Papers, the state ratification debates, and every Supreme Court decision that is focused on a key aspect of the Constitution and its meaning. I can pinpoint the flaws in each of those decisions that have expanded federal power beyond what they were supposed to do. I'll be able to stand face to face with those who will be able to argue with me and explain to them confidently and respectfully, but forcefully nonetheless, why they're wrong. Yes?
So I've heard a lot of movement around this national sales tax already. My concern is that they'll just add that on top of what we already have.
Yeah.
So what part of the current tax law are you, because there's no way that they're going to just say, okay, we're going to get rid of the current tax law. What part of the tax law are you going to propose to change as an offset?
We have to eliminate.
I realize we have to eliminate, but
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing's got
The fair tax is designed to replace every federal tax, including capital gains tax, including corporate income tax. It's all gone. And so you would have to do it in a legislative package that simultaneously phases out and eliminates lock, stock, and barrel, the Internal Revenue Code, and every aspect and particle thereof.
The service.
Yay!
Yeah.
What's that?
I said the Internal Revenue Service with it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, because you'd have a completely different enforcement strategy. reflecting in a completely different taxation
Has
system.
anybody ran the numbers to see what percentage that national tax would have to be to
Yeah.
fill all the obligations of the government?
Yeah, it seems like I've heard it at about
23%.
Is it that high?
I've heard it much lower than
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I thought it was.
No, it's
I've
lower than
heard
that.
of it in the teens, like
17
17%
is
or
what I-
something. 17 to 17.5%.
Would replace it all.
But the beauty of this type of tax system is that whatever it is, let's suppose even, heaven forbid, that it's as high as 23%, which it may have to be with the current spending levels, that people will hate that. They will hate that tax, but everybody will be paying it. And that's the beauty of the system. Those who will refuse to cut government so that we can cut spending. That's why it's essential that we simultaneously end deficit spending, reform the tax system at the same time, is because those two things in tandem will ensure the success of restoring the constitutional debate. Because the only answer at that point will be cutting government down to size. Those who refuse to do it will be fired by the people, because everybody will be paying. Yes?
My interest, I mean, all these things have, I mean, all of us I know have interest in all these discussion parts and pieces. But my big interest for our state is energy. I moved here about 2 years ago from California. So I'm recovering California. I do not want to bring anything that California has here other than maybe a beach. And that probably is a little tough.
Warm weather would be nice, so if you could accelerate global warming, I'd appreciate that.
I have studied energy and been involved with energy for many, many years, and have been asked to actually help within the state on some programs to possibly build jobs. If we look at energy, we've talked about cutting government, we've talked about cutting taxes. The other side of it is to grow the economy. And we are in a unique situation here in Utah to literally affect the entire country. I just pulled up the map of uranium, for example, on the state. There are 35 deposits at least of multi-mile width of uranium. Most people don't realize that they're arguing over Earth Energy or Energy Solutions. I don't even know those guys. But when I look at the map, right around Utah Lake, there's stuff. There's an old uranium mine right outside of Salt Lake. I mean, this stuff's everywhere. We're getting it. This is Gamma Ray City. But taking that to the side of generating power, you know, actually putting my mouth, in this case, uranium, you know, putting up power plants. We have coal that would last for eons. We have more energy, more oil in the terms of shale oil and tar sands between the three states, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah, than the Middle East. In fact, multiples, maybe 3 or 4 times the amount of energy that the Middle East has.
In fact, it's more oil than they have in the entire Persian Gulf, plus Russia, plus Venezuela, plus Mexico, plus Canada.
We actually have
Just
2 to
Utah,
3
Colorado, and
times-
Wyoming.
2 to 3 times the amount of
We're gonna get our land
oil
back.
reserves within that, I don't want to call it a triangle, but let's say that area.
It's the Green River Formation. Yeah.
I want to hear from you how we're going to take and allow those. One of the big things I've heard from Glenn Beck in reading these old papers going back to the Antiquities Act and everything is one of the ways you make people dependent upon the government is you take away their ability to produce, their ability to earn an income. And it's just coming in massive waves of these ideas. How do we turn that around and put Utah in a position? Literally, Utah's in a position to be incredibly wealthy. Maybe like Alaska or Texas could be. I would say California, but they'll never get there with the craziness that's going on. So we have that ability. What are you going to do to help us, to put us in that position, to allow us to get access to those resources, and put our people to work?
We have the ability not only to become wealthy like under Texas or Alaska, I actually think it goes farther than that. We have the ability to become wealthy like unto the United Arab Emirates or Kuwait.
You're actually
And you've cited some of the reasons. 1 trillion barrels worth of shale oil in the Green River
up to
Formation.
4 trillion.
Yeah, up to 4 trillion, but over 1 trillion has proven to be recoverable. And then potentially trillions of dollars worth of coal beneath the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, which of course is the whole reason the monument was created in the first place, was to put that coal out of reach. And you're exactly right. That's how we're subjugated to this sort of feudal system that our federal government is trying to create. So the federal government claims to own everything and the rights to prevent us from doing